Good morning. Our hand today is going to be pocket kings. Folds to me in the cutoff. I raise. I think it's a pretty standard raise. Here's my cutoff raising range here. Sometimes I open it up a little bit, just depending on the players behind us. His fold to steal is 50%. His is 86%. We don't know this player, so I don't think this fold to steal is high enough for this player. He's 42. He's playing 42% of hands, so it's not worth it to expand my range. Open raise. I get two calls from the blinds. The call that's relevant is this player. This player is complete unknown. Only the second hand at the table. It's hard to judge what his range is. I just put something together like this. And the reason I did something like this is, as you'll see, he will lead into me on the flop. So if he's leading into me on the flop, I think he's probably has a wider range. He's probably not as good a player. So I'm going to give him all of the aces, the broadways, pocket pairs, suited connectors, suited one gappers. I'm going to assume that a player like this, any player, is actually going to 3-bet queens plus ace king. I think that's just pretty standard to see that. So we're going to work with this range. Flop comes down king queen 8. All right, no spade draw or anything, no dime, no flush draw. Just you could have a straight draw possible, but no flush draws. And now villain bets half pot. Villain 2 folds, and with my kings, I went ahead and raised it. Raised it to, I think 50. This is 50% pot, maybe. 13.5. I think that's about it. Let's see here. Is this? Pull a calculator over. So we bet 4.5 times 3 plus 9, 22.5. About 60% of pot. So I raised it to 13.5 and he calls. Turn was a 10 of spades and he bets 27. And at this point, he would have had a donk with me, donk into me with a jack 9 or an ace jack. And I just think that's so unlikely. I think most players at donk are going to be like a king, weaker kicker, maybe like a king 9, possibly king 10. I block those. So then you kind of look at, well, what about a queen? I think queens could do it. I think maybe even jacks and maybe 10s could also donk just to kind of see, did it connect? I think that's real risky to do with 10s and 9s because king queen hits my range pretty hard. But he leads into me, and now I raise the 75% pot, which is all in. He calls. I actually feel pretty confident. If he's going to lead into me twice, he's got some decent hand. And if he shows up with jack 9, he shows up with jack 9. We make a note and say he's willing to donk, to lead in into the pre-flop aggressor, pre-flop raiser with a gut shot draw. And maybe he's got some sort of combo draw, maybe like a queen 9 of spades. So I just went ahead and raised because I do think a player like that would call. 7 of hearts comes out, and we see the showdown. So I pretty much know we're going to have to adjust this GTO, but I am curious about the raises that I was making. So sure enough, villain should only be betting 0.31% of the time. We will assume he bets, and if he leads into us, we are raising 16.7%. So it does look good. Raising with trips, I think that's pretty standard. Raising with 2 pair, king, queen. Sometimes we could raise with the top pair, top kicker. Sometimes we're raising as a bluff, but we're calling with a lot of top pairs, second pairs, especially those hands that we're calling with would have some straight potential. We're calling with like ace jack, ace 10. Again, got shot draw potential. So right now, I think we're pretty good. And then villain's going to be calling about 44.8%. Then he has 10 spades, and it has 0.06 again. He should not be betting, but he does. And at this point, it looks like we are raising again 37.4%, which would include our kings and queens, and sure enough, it does seem like GTO is saying we should be raising all in with these trips, 2 pairs. Top pair, top kicker. It's a little surprising for him to bet again, but I kind of think that that's the right play, as we said, or as I said initially. We block kings. I mean, if we didn't block kings, I think we're looking at like a king little, maybe a queen little, queen with a kicker. When that 10 comes out, I do think that hits him. So I don't think like king 2, king 3, or maybe even like king 7, or queen 7, queen 6 is going to fire again. I could see him donking in and then calling, because a lot of people feel like once they have money in the pot, they can't fold. They have to see one more card. So I understand that part of it, but to donk a second time, I think means that turn card helped him in some way. So I'm not entirely sure if I agree with this ace king or ace jack. Maybe if we think he's got like that flush draw. So that's where I said maybe like a queen 9 of spades, queen jack of spades, where he's betting with 1 pair and the flush draw. So we did raise them all in, and he's basically going to be calling 100% with like ace jack and ace 8, or ace jack and pocket 8s, right? But you can see I've got just like absolutely no combos. So let's go back and fix this as to what I think players are going to be doing. So I think with betting, I don't think king queen is typical. I don't even think king jack and king 10 is typical. So in this regard, I don't think he has a lot of these low kings. Maybe king 10. So we'll say king 10 possibly. But I think king jack is just going to check call. I think the queens are going to be betting. I think maybe jack 10s are going to be betting. And possibly even an 8. Just to see where he's at. We're going to say 9s as well. I think trips, 2 pairs are all going to be checking, possibly check raising, but definitely like check calling. What about these low pocket pairs? Probably not. I don't think players are going to be betting like that. I mean, they could. If they're doing second pair, why not do 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s? I just possibly these are going to be cards that they're just check folding, especially on this board. So let us run the solver and come back when it's done. All right, we are back. We've got villain betting here leading into us. And now with considering his leads, we are raising with a much larger frequency. That's a problem. Once a player donks into us, we need to be aggressive. And we are being aggressive with a lot of hands. It's a lot of these hands that we were c-betting, we're betting. Again, you know, last time it was just like kings, queens, king, queen, 2 pair, pocket 8s, maybe a couple ace kings. That was about it. You can see all of these blues here. I mean, we're doing gut shots, jack 10, jack 9, jack 10, jack 9, 10, 9. All of those hands we are betting. We're even raising here with the 8s, with ace 8s and 10 8s and 9 8s. We're just being aggressive. So when we raise here, villain is going to be calling with some of the stuff, but he should be folding his 9s, 10s, and jacks. So he does call, and then he's leading into us. And again, it says 0%, so I think we're going to have to adjust this again. What hands is he going to lead into us? We are going to say 2 pair, king 10 and king, because again, if he's going to bet into us again, I think that 10 helped him. So king 10, queen 10 gives him 2 pair. Let's say 10 8 gives him 2 pair. That bets, and then let's get our flush draws. So let's say Queen Jack improved him 9-8. Let's not do the 8-7 or 8-6s, because I think with the 9-8 that improves him to a gut shot as well. So we've got our combo draws. So let's say that that's what he's raising, or that what he's betting right here. So let us run this solver, and we will be back when it's done. All right, we are back. So again, he's leading into us. We're raising here. He calls. And then we have him betting into us. Now, overall, in terms of our frequencies, I think it's 2 pair. He's got 7. It's about 50-50. 7 combos, 7.36 combos of 2 pair. Actually, no, it's 2-to-1. 2 combos of 2 pair for every 1 combo of flush draw. A little bit more for the 2 pair. So he leads into us, bets into us, and now we are raising, and we are again raising to be aggressive. This time, however, we're not raising with any of our pairs. We're raising with trips. We're raising with 2 pair. Queens, we aren't completely raising all in. I think raising all in isn't necessarily bad. Some of our aces we're going to be checking here. I think if we have the ace of spades, we can not check. We can call. We can call here with the ace of spades, because it makes it harder for him to have that nut flush draw. But I think that's just the way the computer calculates it. Sometimes ace jack, king jack. Do I think he's folding? Probably not. If we raise, so I think exploitatively, I think we could probably, remove some of those bluffs and say, look, he's not going to fold any of the hands that he bet into us. I don't think he's not going to fold his 2 pair. He's not going to fold the 9-8s. I mean, it looks like he might, but he's got a gut shot and a spade. This guy has already led into us twice. I don't think he's gonna be folding. So I think exploitatively we can really narrow down what hands we're raising, and probably just raise trips and 2 pair, king queen, king 10, and same thing with like ace king. I don't even know if we would do that. So we do raise. He calls. He should be calling with, looks at 2 pair, king 10, queen 10, queen. Based on what he has, GTO says he should be folding those. I think that's why they want us to raise here with like some of our gut shots, because he is supposed to be folding some of those. So he calls, and then we go to the river. So what does he show? Since he's all in, he shows queen 10 offsuit. That was in his range here. Do we like his play? I don't like his play, and as we've kind of gone through, a lot of hands so far where some of these players lead into us, and as we see the donk play, when they donk, you should be raising it. I think some of the exceptions for leading in come in limped pots. I just honestly don't know how many of those we should be leading. But even here, with the ranges, you can see that he lacks these queens, kings, aces, ace, king. If he had those hands, those trips in his range, I think that's a little bit different. But he lacks those, whereas I have them here. So when he leads that flop, we just need to be we need to be aggressive. We need to raise, and if he calls and leads again, he's connected. That turn card has helped him in some way, and it's unlikely that he's going to be folding. Until you know otherwise, don't expect him to fold. All right, so this was our hand. I don't think it's really worthwhile to go through. I mean, we could, what happens if it's a different card? So let's say if it's like a 6 of spades. Yeah, villain should be betting, 47% of the time here. Oops, we're raising. And then he calls. We don't expect him to bet, and actually, I wouldn't expect him to bet. I think he's checking, and we're just betting. We're betting half pot again. He's probably going to be calling. He might be folding some of those. If he happens to raise, I think we are just getting it all. We're going to be getting it all in at some point. Definitely with kings, it looks like we are calling. Queens were sometimes raising. If he check raises, that's a pretty strong hand here. So two pair, maybe some trips. Maybe he had pocket sixes, but again, we'd have to change all of our assumptions. So I think betting, and then he calls, and let's say seven of hearts comes back out. He checks again. I think we're still betting for value. So I think this is probably a straightforward hand, given that we flop trips, and even if we didn't, we're still going to be betting a lot once he checks, because the six doesn't help him, doesn't connect in any way up with the board. We've already demonstrated that we're betting. I think we're still betting, hoping that he folds. We can have some checks with like gut shots, but mostly we are continuing the pressure, and I'm expecting him to fold some of his hands here. And if he doesn't fold some of his hands, then I'm kind of expecting them to fold some other ones. So you could see, like on that river, if we fire out the turn and the river, I do expect these queens to fold. It's so likely that I'm going to have that king that it's like, why would you call? And again, if he calls down with the queen, you just make a note and say he's willing to call down with second pair, and that means we don't make this type of play where we don't fire two barrels with turn and the river with nothing. All right, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, look tomorrow for another hand.